Hello everyone, and welcome back to another Wildlife Wednesday. I am here at the most popular state park here in Wisconsin, Devil's Lake State Park. Now I am up here actually on a talus field on the west bluff right now of Devil's Lake, and it's kind of late spring and a really cool time to be here. And I'll explain a little bit of why it's such a cool time to be here. Now, Devil's Lake is known, I think, primarily for this weird rock that is abundant here called baraboo quartzite. And basically, what quartzite is metamorphized sandstone. So that's sandstone that was then taken and put under extreme heat and pressure and made, it makes quartzite. And this is a very unique type of quartzite called baraboo quartzite, which is primarily known not only for how hard it is, but its odd coloration. Some scenarios, this one's a little bit not the color I was looking for. In some scenarios, the rock is legitimately purple. Now, the reason that this rock right here has become that kind of a purple color is primarily because there's minerals in here, and the sandstone that was here, it kind of oxidized, right? It essentially rusted. There's a lot of iron, maybe some other, a mix of minerals that are in there, and after going through metamorphosis, it changed to this kind of a strange, light kind of purple color, which is very cool and not something you really see a lot of, especially with quartzite. Usually it'll be a more white color, so this is pretty cool. Another fascinating thing about this quartzite here is that it is ridiculously hard. It is right up there in hardness, right next to diamonds. So it's not quite as hard as a diamond, but it is very close, and which makes it a very useful rock. It's used a lot in railroads, so anytime you're walking along a railroad and you see those rocks that are piled up along the railroad tracks, usually that's quartzite. And if you're here in Wisconsin, there's a good chance it's baraboo quartzite. Now, you can imagine this environment. It has a lot of these boulders, a lot of the rocks, which, if you're ever looking for a little bit more sporty of an activity, makes for some really great rock climbing. It also creates a very unique and interesting environment that otherwise would not really be found here in southwestern Wisconsin. These rocks here, and the abundance of these rocks on these sloping hills, create a little bit of, an air conditioning effect. You would call it a microclimate. Because of that microclimate, it's a cooler microclimate, not a hotter one and not a drier one. A much cooler, much more moist microclimate, helped out by the lake itself and by these boulders. These boulders retain a lot of the heat or retain a lot of the cold, and so it stays a pretty consistent year-round, more consistent relatively year-round temperature than surrounding areas like a big field might or something like that. And because of that, you have a little bit more of a cooler adapted climate or cooler adapted species that live here, such as white pine. Now, the white pine, again, you'll find that here. That's a classic driftless area tree. They love growing on the cliffs where there's exposed rock, and because they take a lot longer to warm up, the pines do just fantastic, and they really do enjoy those cooler, drier climates. And a white pine is a perfect example of that. Another one that's really cool is this right here. This tree here is called a bladdernut. Now, you may never have heard of a bladdernut, but essentially, it's a small kind of a shrubby tree, and its fruit are the thing that gives it its name. Currently, it's flowering, so they have these tiny little white flowers with these yellow stamens which have the pollen on them, and later on in the year, once those flowers mature, they will turn into fruit, and the fruit on this tree actually kind of looks almost like, you could say, maybe even a little Chinese lantern. It's a very unique looking fruit, really easily dispersed if around water. It can actually float on water. Let's say this tree were near a stream or something. The those seeds would be dispersed by the water itself, because it just float downstream until it finds somewhere new to take root. Now keep in mind, Devil's Lake is not only unique because of the rock, but because the lake itself used to be part of the Wisconsin River. And while it's not officially formed from a glacier, like the glacier didn't dig out the lake, there was a glacier that actually built up a lot of sediment, creating almost a dam and blocking this section of the Wisconsin River off from the rest of the river, kind of trapping this water here in this bowl and essentially creating Devil's Lake, which now is no longer connected to any other body of water or stream, and is solely within this kind of little valley here. All right, well, again, thank you for watching this episode of Wildlife Wednesday. I hope before I see you on the next one, you make sure to get outside, go enjoy a little bit of nature, whether it's just around the block or to a state park like this. Make sure you get outside, and I will see you on the next one.